How many hours have you been playing Smash Ultimate? 100? 1,000? 13,000? Okay, you probably haven't been playing for that long, but if you have and you're still not finding success, you might be wondering what you're doing wrong. You've put your heart and soul into being competitive at this game, so why is it that after all the practice you've done, you're still having trouble finding consistent success? You may have hopes and dreams of becoming one of the best players with your character, maybe one of the best players in your area, or even one of the best players in the world. But right now, those dreams may look like they're fleeting because as hard as you try to get better at the game, it seems like everyone is always just a little bit better. So what do? Well, I'm going to try and tell you what you might be doing wrong and how you can fix your practice to get a little bit better. First of all, I want to make sure you know all the fundamentals of the game. I'll leave a link to a playlist on all the fundamentals you'll need to know to make sure you have a solid foundation, but if you're weak in literally any of these areas, your opponent is going to find out and quickly take advantage of that. Now you're at the stage where both you and your opponent have roughly the same knowledge of the game. This is where the second part of the equation comes in, matchup knowledge. Each character has its own relative advantages and disadvantages. While you might think that picking up a top tier like Mario or Mythra will improve your game, you need to realize that since most people play against a lot of Mario and Mythra players, they're going to have a much better idea of how to play against those characters. If you pick up someone like Pit or Lucario, your opponent may not know the matchup very well, but you'll still be at a fundamental disadvantage seeing as how they don't have as many strengths as characters like Sonic or Palutena. Remember, tier lists don't matter if you're willing to put in enough time with your character, but just know that some characters will give you an easier road than others. Another thing to keep in mind is that matchup knowledge is a double equation. It's not just about how well your opponent knows your character, but also how much they know their own character and vice versa. Some people like to look up each character's frame data, which is definitely useful, especially if you're looking for things like each character's best option out of shield. But if you really want to get better, you need to feel which options are better in the moment. And you're probably not going to be calculating frame data when you're in the middle of getting comboed. Again, this just comes with time. The more you use your character, whether that's online, at tournaments, in the training lab, or even against CPUs, you're gaining more fluency with your character overall. Remember, the fighter you choose is a toolbox, and the more you use each of their tools, the more you'll realize what options you can use in the middle of a game. As I'm sure you've noticed by now though, the amount of time you spend playing isn't the only factor when playing Smash Ultimate. Maybe you've been playing for thousands of hours and still lose to people who have only been playing for a couple hundred. Here's something to keep in mind. You have no idea how much experience your opponent has, and you'll probably inflate the amount of time that you've been playing personally. You may be tempted to compare yourself to your opponent by looking at the number of hours they've been playing versus the number of hours you've been playing, but that won't give you a full picture. Maybe they're using a new account, and in reality, they have several thousand more hours of practice. Maybe they had a lot of experience with Smash 4, and that just carried over into Ultimate. Maybe they go to tournaments or friendlies or friends' houses. All that time spent practicing is nowhere to be seen on their Nintendo Online account. Not only that, but maybe they spent their time practicing in a different way than you. I know people who have only ever used one character since picking up the game in the first place. I personally enjoy floating around between different characters, so my matchup knowledge is a lot more likely to be weaker than my opponent's. Maybe these people have been only playing online and haven't done anything that involves CPUs. Personally, I went through all the challenges and filled out all the pages. I went into classic mode and cleared it with every single character. I've done the World of Light multiple times. I've spent hours sitting in an empty arena waiting for people to join. Sometimes I like changing my preferred rules to include free-for-all, and it just plain takes longer to find matches, let alone all the time I spent just sitting there if I'm the first one eliminated. The point I'm trying to make is that number one, you should never compare yourself to others. Your journey has been completely different than theirs, just like how there might be people comparing themselves to you that you just don't know about. Second, the amount of time that shows up on your Nintendo Online account might be misleading for all kinds of different reasons. You should never look backward or forward when you're trying to improve. You should only look at where you are right now and how you're going to spend your time practicing today. That leads me into another point. If you really want to get better at the game, you need to do two things. Hit the like button and optimize your practice. You might think this automatically translates to play 1v1s against real people on competitive stages with items and Smash Meter turned off, but that's wrong for two major reasons. One, competitive stages aren't automatically going to be more fair than illegal stages, which we can see from Town and City being legal but not Spring Stadium. And two, It assumes your brain is one big exponential function where if you feed it a specific input, it will automatically return a specific output. People are more complex than that. Our brains are more complex than that. You need to be giving it individualized practice rather than just jumping on quick play and hoping that will automatically make you better at the game. Let's look at it this way. Let's say you're using Mithra and your opponent is using Mario. You're having no trouble against Donkey Kong or Ganondorf players, but the minute you go up against a Mario player, your heart drops. Suddenly, it doesn't matter what you do. Your opponent puts you in an endless combo string that you just can't get out of. Anytime you try to punish him, it's really a trap that sends you straight into the blast zone. You're doing your best, but your best is never good enough. Traditional advice would be to play against more Mario players and gradually figure it out, but that advice is scientifically incorrect, at least for right now. What you should be doing is one of two things. The first is going into the training lab and juggling Mario around for a little while. Trust me, juggling Mario is fun no matter who your main is. This gives you a no-pressure environment where you can get a feel for Mario's weight and how each move naturally connects with the next. You'll get a better idea of Mario's hurtbox so that you know how close you can get before he falls out of hit stun. Next, I'd recommend playing against a Mario CPU. I know that some people have said that playing against CPUs will give you bad habits, but not only has that been debunked, but it also gives you a more relaxed environment to practice against your difficult matchups. Now here's why that matters. When you're playing a game against another person, you've got all kinds of chemicals traveling through your brain. You've got cortisol whenever you're stuck in a situation you can't seem to get out of. You're experiencing adrenaline when you're moving really fast and have to make split-second decisions. And hopefully, you're experiencing dopamine, which makes the whole experience worth it in the end. If you want to get better, you want to maximize dopamine so that you're motivated to keep going. Remember, people who say that discipline is better than motivation are the same people who spend all day watching David Goggins' Facebook reels rather than actually working. Motivation is just naturally enjoying the process, which is literally the only thing that will ever make you better at the game. If you're ever not enjoying the process, you're not going to learn. While we're at it, let's think about what learning actually is. It's when the electrical signals in your brain fire at similar frequencies, which then creates synaptic connections between those areas of the brain. If the stimuli you're feeding the brain are Mario and I'm stuck in the same combo over and over again, holy crap, this game sucks, then I'm sorry, but you're just not going to get better at playing against Mario players. Actually, if this is the case, you might actually be making yourself worse against Mario players in the long run. You want to slow the game down, get used to Mario's options, and then gradually test what tools you have that do and don't work against him. This is definitely when you should either play against Mario CPUs or play against someone who's equally as good with Mario as you are with your own character, which is a lot easier said than done. Eventually, you will get to the point where you only play against real people, but until you play against them without feeling stressed at the beginning of every match, then you really should practice against CPUs. Here's what most people don't know about pro players though. A lot of pro players didn't actually have the goal of becoming professional players when they first started. They just thought, I want to play as the cool Fire Emblem character, and happened to get really good at it. Some people just happen to pick it up faster than others, and there's nothing we can do about it. But the good news is, the ceiling is practically limitless. The biggest factor really does come down to playing the game more, playing against talented people, and gradually getting better every day. You're not going to get there by consistently playing against the best people in the world. You're going to get there by having fun against someone who's close to your level. Quick Play and Elite Smash aren't always going to match you up against someone on your skill level, and there's going to be a lot of days where seemingly every person you go up against is a hyper-competitive teabagger. If you're really not having fun right now, then do something else. Play free-for-alls. Turn on Final Smashes. Heck, if you're really desperate, turn off preferred rules altogether and see what happens. Here's the two main things I want you to get from this video. Number one, you should never compare yourself to other players. You have no idea what kind of experience they have, and sometimes you're just not going to play as well. You need to focus on yourself and realize that this is a journey. Number two, you need to stop putting so many expectations on yourself. If you want to be a top player, you're only handicapping yourself. Your main goal should be to get better at whatever pace works for you. That may be 2 hours a day, it could be 2 hours a week. You just need to make sure you're actually enjoying the process. Because if you're not having fun, your brain is going to get overloaded and shut down. It'll stop processing information altogether. It'll keep you from learning, and it'll make you play worse in the meantime. Funnily enough, High levels of cortisol can actually destroy synapses in your hippocampus and ultimately destroy your memory. If you really need to get a win, then get that win and turn off the game. End it on a high note. After 27 games, you finally won. Now go eat a Pop-Tart and chill out for a while. Let yourself cool down while your brain tries to make sense of everything you went through. Remember, everyone who plays this game is on the same journey as you, so calm down and have fun. So, what do you think? Do you get stressed playing Smash? Where are you on your Smash journey? Leave a comment to let me know, and I'll see you guys next time.